Good afternoon, good evening, good night. Have a great day. Days just blend right into one another. Next week, we're going to have a lot of activity. So, again, every day we have Mass at 12 noon, Saturday night at 5 p.m. and 5:45 in Spanish. But next week, we're going to have two Marian devotions. Tuesday at 12:45, we have the Rosary. And on Thursday at 12:45, we're having the Miraculous Medal Novena. Okay, I always forget that. Then on Wednesday at 5 p.m., with the youth ministry, there's going to be a Zoom Pentecost party, the happy birthday party for the church. And then on Friday at 3 o'clock, we're having Divine Mercy. So that's a lot of stuff we're having. Put your pencils and pads and take notes and make sure you're here for all those things. Before we begin, just to maybe bring up to date on a few things that are happening. We received a notice from the diocese that they're beginning to start planning for when we reopen. One of the things they're planning on doing is, as a diocese, they will buy in bulk gloves and hand disinfectant so that the individual parishes can go to certain distribution sites to pick that up. That takes a headache off of the pastor's head, because I don't have to worry about checking prices and stuff, because they'll do a good job for us at the diocese. We also have things happening. So now, just so that you know, in some of the hospitals, you're now actually allowed to visit. You can't visit a COVID patient, and you can't visit a section that is COVID section, but you can visit other patients. Just this morning, a family whose husband had died, they were there around the body, and I was able to pray with them. That's like the first time that's happened. So that's going to be being allowed a little bit more now. But I'd like to ask you, those who are there, people you know, if you tell the people, if you are sick and you think you're seriously sick, it's always good to call me before you go into the hospital. Because we'd much rather celebrate a sacrament if we can do penance, confession, viaticum, communion, anoint the sick. We can do all that. It's much more beneficial for the person, for the family to celebrate those sacraments than if someone is unable to communicate or receive or anything. So I encourage you to do that if possible. Thank you very much.
We've been saying a lot about health and learning about, of course, doctors and medical professionals who have to take care of this pandemic we're dealing with. But 2 nights in a row on the news in the evening, and even the New York Times this morning, there have been pictures of the World Health Organization building the headquarters in Geneva. And on the front of the building has been this symbol. Now, you can look at it and see the symbol, and you could say, well, I understand the blue and I understand the globe, but what is the symbolism of a snake and a staff? Why is that there? Well, over the course of the years, there have been 2 symbols that have been used as medical symbols. The first one here, the one on the right, or at least on my right, the caduceus, notice it has 2 snakes on it. And this is the symbol of the United States Army Medical Corps. However, modern scholarship has told us that this is not a symbol of medicine. The idea was that the symbol was a symbol of Greek gods, and even going back before that, that it was a symbol of the gods who were the gods of healing. It turns out not to be the case. It turns out that really that staff with the double snakes on it really represents gods who are now the gods of commerce. However, one symbol that does come and does represent medicine is here, this one, the rod of Asclepius. Asclepius was also a Greek and Roman god, and his symbol was the staff and the snake. But why a staff and a snake? Where did the symbol come from? Well, we know that the symbol actually comes from, the best explanation is that it comes from the Bible. In the book of Numbers, Moses is with the people of Israel in the desert, and a plague of, if that's the right word, a plague of snakes come upon them, and they're told to, Moses is told to make a serpent, a snake out of brass, and put it up on a staff. And this becomes a symbol of healing. So it seems that this gets worked into even into our own time now, that the World Health Organization is using this symbol whose origins in the past are in that Bible story of the healing symbol of the snake wrapped around a staff.
I wonder if that's also why, so many organizations, the Christian community was really the foundations of many hospitals and things of that sort. The universities that taught doctors, and even like the Red Cross. It's a cross, that idea that Christian background, Christian tradition brings the healing about. And that's a lot in there.
Yes, yeah. Certainly there were hospitals before Christians and with Christians, but certainly the Christian impulse was to care for the sick. And there's so many religious communities who run hospitals today even.
Some of the things just last week, I had passengers in my car. Shh. They all had masks and gloves on, and I sprayed my whole car with Lysol when they left. But this was a very interesting thing. It helped me to realize a little bit more how people who are without deal with things. There was a mother with 2 children. One was about this high, maybe 4 and a half, 5. And she and her sister, who was about 2 and a half, had just left the outreach office. Sister Margaret had given them food and had a bunch of bags. So the mother has a bag, and the little girl has a bag, and there's another bag. Well, the little girl, tiny one, can't carry that bag. So the mother's moving it and then taking this, and it's like a procession. So I noticed it. And I'm saying, what are they doing? And then I realized what they were doing. So the mother could not be out of view of her 2 children, but she had to move the bags, and they couldn't move all at once. So she would move half the bags, come back, do that, back. So I said, let me drive you. So we went into the car and drove them all there. They were filled with joy. The 2 little girls were talking and laughing. But just that process, can you imagine the people who have to do that every day to get food, to get water? In other countries, they get, I think, a 5-pound bag of rice they're getting, and some fluids and water. They can only go by themselves. Sometimes only one person is allowed. So as we're looking around, keep your eyes open to see some of those things. The other thing that happened it was actually yesterday's New York Times. And there was a full-page thing of a new book out of the 1,000 essential movies. As soon as I read it, I said, Bishop Wcela, there's no way in hell there's 1,000 essential movies. Maybe, at max is 100. I would say there's 25. And I started to list some of them. And basically, the movies that get the Academy Awards are not essential movies. They're just a well-done movie. So for instance, Gone with the Wind is a great movie. It was my mother's favorite movie. It's not an essential movie in my viewpoint. In my viewpoint, movies that change something that's happened in cinema. So for instance, the movie Tron, it's a Disney movie. But to come up with a concept to put humans into computers and become characters is an amazing concept. A movie like The Princess Bride, which is one of my favorite movies, or The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. What I'm going to ask you to do is make a list of what you consider not the best movie, not your favorite movie, but what movie is an essential movie that anyone who sees movies should watch in order that they could teach film or learn film by watching those essential movies. I'd ask you to do that and write them and send them in to me. Don't email them to me. Write them and send them. This way I can have a whole list. Thank you.
And expect a critique of wherever you write in with Father Larry Wright. Larry has seen every movie in the world. We sit here and look at something at night, and he tells me who's in it, where it came from, what year it came out. So I don't know where he spent most of his time when he was growing up. Just to continue with the idea of plagues, pandemics, and what happens. There was a great plague in the middle of the 14th century, between 1347 and 1352. It was called the Black Plague. It struck in Europe. It killed over 30 million people in Europe. And think of the population at the time, was much smaller than today, 30 million. That was just in Europe. It was called the Black Plague because what happened is that people would get black swellings on their body. They're the parts of glands that would swell up and turn black. And the plague was spread by fleas, and the fleas were carried by rats. And so they spread very quickly and all over. And I was just looking up some of the cures that people had devised for the plague in those days. So, for example, one of them was a drink. It was a mixture of cider or some kind of alcoholic drink and other spices. It could have worked. It was meant to be something that would kill the germs inside. Another was bloodletting, which was a favorite medical procedure in those days. The idea was if you got rid of blood, bad blood, and that new blood would develop in your body and be cured. If any of you remember talking in movies, African Queen with Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn, as their boat is going to a kind of a marshy place, he has to get out of the boat and he has to push the boat through this muck and mire. And when he gets back in the boat, his body is full of leeches, these things that hook on and suck the blood out. Well, that's what they would do. They would put leeches on people and let the leeches suck out the blood, hoping that better blood would be growing again. Another was a religious cure, which we would expect, that people would say, celebrate Mass, people would put blessed metals, blessed all kinds of relics, all kinds of objects on what was sick. Fumigation, with burning incense in the house, or if they didn't have incense, just getting smoke in the house was thought to kill something. Now there were some stranger ones. One was the chicken cure. What they did was to take a chicken, and a live chicken, pluck all the feathers off its back, and then tie the chicken onto the sore place on the person's body. The idea was that the sickness would go from your skin into the chicken's skin. Now, just imagine this: if someone's sitting with a live chicken squawking tied to their arms and legs, it's just too much. It must be fun. And this is one of the well, there are a lot of more repulsive ones that I'm not going to go into. But those were some of the cures they tried. But some things that they did then haven't changed at all. So one of the procedures in those days for people who had second homes, who were wealthy, was to move out of the city out into the countryside where they had second homes and to spread the virus that way, which of course we've seen happening today. But what they practiced and what was the most effective way of fighting the virus or fighting the pandemic, the plague in those days, was things that we're told to do today. 1, social distancing, and 2, isolation. So it's a tried and true practice that if we want to get rid of this pandemic we're dealing with, to at least take that as one of the things we do: social distancing and isolation. Don't bother with the chicken cure.
The chicken dance, though.
Yes, right.
In terms of people keep calling, wanting to know when we're going to be allowed back, I don't know. I have to wait for the bishop of the diocese to make that proclamation to us, in consultation probably with the government, the 2 counties, possibly do it together. But just as a word, some dioceses have opened already, and they all have rules and regulations, tons of them. But one of the dioceses that opened up a little bit earlier was in New Mexico. And just this week, in one place, one parish, the one priest died, and 5 others who lived there all got the virus. That parish is now closed. The other parish is still open. That parish is closed. So this is not going to be a open and back to normal. It's going to be a process, step back, step forward. So basically, we have to be attuned to what's happening, pay special care and caution, and keep washing hands, wearing masks, wearing gloves, all that kind of stuff. So keep your ears and eyes open to see what's happening, and we'll let you know as soon as we know. God bless you.
You too.